Hello everybody, this is Rhea with poshplumplans.com and I am here. I'm so sorry, I'm sick and you guys are gonna have to deal with my horrible voice, I'm sorry. But I'm here to show you guys how to do a digital layout with the mommylhey July digital kit. So what I have here on the screen for you is Photoshop. And if you're brand new to Photoshop, when you open it for the first time, it's definitely not going to look like this. Mine is customized and set up so that it will be easy for me to show you this video. So basically what you're looking at right here is a blank template of a monthly calendar spread. So I've got room up here for you to write whatever the month is. If you want to write the year up here, if you want to write some kind of inspirational quote, that's a great spot to do that. There's the sidebar here for you to put whatever information you track on a monthly basis here. Maybe you're writing out like a color coding key. There's all kinds of options right here. And then I've got 5 weeks in here so that you can write out the days of the week, and I also prefer a lined monthly calendar just because I think it keeps my handwriting a little bit nicer and neater, and I've got a lot of things that I write on my monthly spread, so it just keeps me organized. So basically this file, you can find it in the description box below. You can download it for free if you want to follow along on this tutorial with me. You can print this out even. It's I think this one in particular is a B6 size. So when you print it out and fold it in half, it's going to be like a 5x7, so a perfect B6. So you can print it out and do whatever you want with it, or you can open it up in Photoshop and follow along with me. So I want to bring your attention to this box right over here, which is called the library. When you open Photoshop for the first time, you're definitely not going to have panels on this side with all kinds of tools and these particular panels over here with tools. I have everything set up and customized for me so that I can do this layout very easily. So if you want a tutorial on how to customize Photoshop and the menus and the panels, I can do one on that, but for this particular video I'm just going to show you how to use the mommylhey July kit, all the digitals, and decorate a monthly spread. So let's get into it. Alright, to get started, my thought was we're basically going to go from the top down. So if you saw the post on the Facebook mommylhey group, or even on my Instagram, the Posh Plum Plans, you saw the layout that we're going for. And that was this one right here. So this is basically what we're looking for. This is going to be our end result. It may not be exactly like this because sometimes it's a little bit difficult to recreate perfect things in Photoshop, sometimes with angles and things like that. I'll talk to you about that in a minute. But we're starting here and the end goal is to be somewhere around here. So I'm going to start with that pink washi at the top and show you how I did that. So like I said, in this library over here, I have brought in all of the files that mommylhey included in the July digital kit. So I've got everything in here, and I also have the specific colors laid out for me that she used inside these kits. So I've got everything I need right here. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down and find the pink background that she gave us. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to click place layers. So now I have this washi, or this background, over the entire background, which of course is not what I'm looking for. But if I were to click and drag it out of the way, you can see that my calendar is still back here. So what I want is for this to fit inside this strip up here. So if I take it and put it right inside that box there, I can already start to see that it's going to fit quite nicely. But it is just a little bit too big. So what I'm going to do is take my cursor and I'm going to grab this little square right over here in this upper corner. I'm going to hold the shift key down on my keyboard, which is going to keep it from distorting as I resize it. This is what happens when you hold shift and you resize something in Photoshop. If I were not to hold the shift key down, what would happen is I could just distort it completely, which is something fun that you can do, but that's not what we're looking for here. So what I want to do is bring it down into this corner here. I'm going to hold that shift key, grab this upper corner, and just start to bring it down a little bit because I know I need a little bit smaller. So if I put it right up here in this upper bar, I can see I've got a little bit of space left over here. So I can make it a little bit bigger. And that's about the size I'm looking for. So it fits really nicely right up in this box. Now I've got way too much down here going on. So I need to get rid of it. And I'm going to select this second tool over here, which is called the rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to select that. And I'm going to start at the very bottom of the screen and just draw a rectangle upwards. And select all of this area down here because I don't want any of this. So now that I've got these little blinking lines around this area, I can just hit the delete key and it's gone. So that's getting us a little bit closer to where we want to be. But I want this background to stop at this line right here. So I'm going to do that one more time, grab my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm going to again select the area I do not want. So I don't want any of this down here because I want it to fit just ever so nicely in that box at the top. So if I hit my delete key again, you can see that I have deleted everything except for that little strip that I want to use. So now we have a top washi. Now if you want to stay super organized as you create projects like this little panel over here is called the layers panel. And you can see this pink washi. If I click on it, this layer 1 is highlighted. So what I could do is double click here and type in top pink washi, just so that I know what this layer is, because sometimes it's difficult to tell by just looking at this little thumbnail. So I know this is my top pink washi. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is the sidebar washi. And if you look at our example, it is this green striped washi. And mommylhey gives us that file right in here. So I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to click place layers. So again, it's going to put this whole huge thing in here, which I don't want. I just want this little strip right here. And this time what I'm going to do is I am going to again hold my shift key down and drag this down. And I can still see I've got a little bit too much, it's a little bit too big at the bottom. So I'm going to keep going. There we are. And now you can see that it's a little bit too short. I want it to go all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to grab this other corner down here, hold the shift key, and bring it down. So I'm going to take that rectangular marquee tool again up here, and I'm going to start from the upper right hand corner and select all of this green that I do not want. And now that it's beautifully selected, I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard, and now I've got a green sidebar washi. So I think it's looking pretty good so far. If this is where we want to end up, we've got a nice little structure started over here. Now, if you're super into details, detail oriented, and you take this, it's called the zoom tool, which is all the way in the bottom right over here. Click on that zoom tool and you can zoom in. The more you click, the closer it'll get you. You can see that our washis are not really perfectly in these lines. They're overlapping a little bit. So if you are to click on the green layer here to select it, you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard to perfectly get these things in line, if that really matters to you. So that kind of stuff does matter to me. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom here, and if I zoom in, you can see that my washi doesn't quite go all the way to the bottom of this line here, and if I look over here, it actually overlaps this line here. So if you are super into details and you don't like that kind of thing, click the move tool, this top one up here, click on your layer, and I'm gonna scoot over a little bit, and you can see the little square here, and just click and drag that down to where you want it. Now the green perfectly meets that black line. and I'm happy. Let's see, I'm gonna zoom out again and zoom in. There's that little square that I want, and I'm gonna bring it in just ever so much because I want it to perfectly line up. Does it? There, I should be able to see this black line here and a black line on the bottom, and that makes me happy. Okay, so let's talk about this little zoom tool over here that I keep using. So if you click on this tool and you start clicking around, you'll zoom in. If you right click, nope, sorry. If you hold the Alt key on your keyboard, then you can zoom out. So if you're clicking nothing, you'll zoom in. If you hold the Alt key, you'll zoom out. You also have 3 different options up here. You have 100%, which is a little bit too close for us, fit screen, which is what I like, and fill screen, which will fill the entire screen, but it's still zoomed in a little bit too much. So I like the fit screen. So that helps me see everything all at once. So if I'm zooming in and I want to get all the way back out, I just click fit screen right here at the top, and then it gives me a full view again. So let's go back over to our example. So I've got that top washi and the sidebar washi. So I think the next thing I'm going to do is put this August 2018, and then we will work on the date covers. Alright, so the next tool we're going to use is right down here. It is called the text tool, or the horizontal type tool, which is what it should be on default. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to go ahead and click right up here because this is where I want my monthly name. And Photoshop will save whatever whatever specifications you had in here last time. So I'm about to type, and it's going to be, you can see the cursor right here, it's going to be huge. So we're going to have to use our tools to kind of tone it down and make it exactly what we want. So I'm going to type the word August, and then I'm going to use my move tool over here to grab it and drag it down. Now that actually looks pretty cute. I kind of like the way that looks, but we can't leave it that way because we've got other things that are coming in, like the days of the week. So I want it to be nice and small, just like this one, a cute little August, and then we're gonna put 2018 under it. If you like this look, you can definitely leave it this way. You don't have to put the days of the week, or you don't have to do it any way that I want to. Just know that there's all different kinds of ways that you can manipulate the font or the text in here, and this is just one of them. So what I'm going to do is take my horizontal type tool again. I'm going to highlight all of this, and then right over here in what's called the character panel, there are all kinds of different options for changing your font. So this is way too big, so let's first of all change it to a little bit smaller. Okay, that's a little bit too small. We can keep going up until we find a size that we like. 36 might be okay. And you can see how wide my letters are, and they're just a little bit too far apart. So I'm going to bring them a little bit closer. I'm going to highlight them again. And over here in my character panel, there is a feature that allows you to set the tracking, which is what that's called, the spacing in between your letters, to set the tracking for the selected characters. So mine in particular is way over here, and it says 520 because I was trying to be stylistic with something a little bit earlier. So I want to take this way back to 0 because that's what it should look like. This particular font should look like this. And that is pretty much what we're going for right here. So that's perfect. I'm going to bring my August, click on it, and move it right on over here and put it right in there. So now I'm going to take that type tool one more time, and I'm going to click someplace a little bit further away from this one, because if I click too close to my August, it's going to affect my August type instead of starting something brand new. So I'm going to move my cursor a little bit further away, and I'm just going to click, and I'm going to type in that 2018. So this is a little bit too big for right here, so we're going to manipulate it in a couple of different ways. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to set my tracking way back to that 520 again, because I want these numbers to be, well, 520 is a little much, but I want these numbers to be as wide as my monthly title. So you can see here my 2018 is just as wide and got enough spacing so that the August and the year are the same width, and I just think that looks very nice. So let's take this down a little bit and see if we can find the right number. And then I'm also going to highlight it again, and I'm going to bring the size down because that 36 is too big for the year. It worked out well for the name of the month, but it's a little bit too big. So we're getting a little bit closer. I'm going to click on my August, and I'm going to use my arrow key and just bump it up a little bit here so that my year has a little bit more space. I'm going to bump this up just a bit too. And now you can see that the spacing, I moved the size down, but the spacing is not enough. So maybe that 520 was correct for the smaller font. So I'm going to highlight it again, come back over here and hit 520. Let's see. Still a little bit off. So we're just going to continue to bump that number up until it's as wide as the month. Okay, that looks pretty close. So I've got August 2018, and it looks pretty close to what I have right here. Another way that you can manipulate text is by clicking and by clicking and dragging it, and you can see what that does. So you can get a totally different look with your font. You can make it short, you can make it long letters, you can really manipulate fonts in so many different ways. So let's put that back where it belongs. So we have our August and our 2018, so I think we're ready to move on to these that mommylhey gave us, the days of the week. Also, I guess I forgot to show you guys how to change the font, just because mine was saved in the font that I wanted to use. So you would just highlight your font here, and you do have some ways to manipulate font over here in the character panel, but just because I put that character panel there, that's not normally there. Normally the way that you would change font is right up here in the top, so you can change the title of the font, or the type of font, I'm sorry, if it's regular, bold, italic, that kind of thing, the size of the font, and if it's sharp, or this is called the alias, sharp, crisp, strong, smooth. That's really getting into some advanced Photoshop work. So for the most part, you need to know how to change the type of the font, and if you want it regular, bold, italic, and the size. Those are the three main things that you're going to be dealing with here inside of Photoshop for fonts. So you can see as I'm scrolling through the list, it's changing my fonts here. And it'll give you like a nice little preview, so that's pretty cool. You can use crazy fonts if you want, scrolly, beautiful things. I'm just going to leave it right here. This is one of my favorite fonts. It's called DK Honey Guide Caps, and I believe I got it from, I think I got it from Design Cuts, but we can talk about that kind of stuff later. So what's our next step? We're going to do the monthlies. So I've got, I'm sorry, the days of the week. So I've got all the files over here in my library. I just need to find that particular file. So here it is right here. mommylhey gives it to us. I'm going to right click and click Place Layers, and that gives us the file that mommylhey gave us. So she gave us all of the days of the week and beautiful hearts down here, some icons down here, and then the days of the week, or the numbers. So what I'm going to do is take out that rectangular marquee tool, sorry, and I am just going to highlight around what I want. Okay, so I only want these for now. I'll come back to this stuff later. So since I have that highlighted, edit and cut, and now you can see that's gone. So what I'm going to do is get rid of this stuff. I'm going to click on it and hit the delete key because I'll come back to it later. I don't need it right now. And then I'm just going to hit edit, paste, and that's going to leave me with my little dailies here. Now if I were to take this and hover it over my daily box, you can see that they're just a little bit too wide for this particular layout. Now I love these, they're beautiful, but I really want them to fit just perfectly in this layout. So what I'm gonna do is put it right here on the edge. This is about where I want it, and I want it to stop right here. So I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit closer and click on that move tool again. And don't forget to hold down the shift key when you resize things. I'm just gonna click and drag it down until they fit perfectly inside these boxes. I'll double click on it to let go. And now you can see that they fit perfectly inside the boxes. And I'm gonna move this up just a little bit so you can see the placement. We're gonna put them right up here. And so it'll be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now let's continue with the rest. So I'm gonna fit screen so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm gonna use that marquee tool again and highlight everything that I want to remove. And you can use fast keys on your keyboard. So if you hit Control X, whoops, that was on the wrong layer. Make sure you're on the right layer. So you can hit Control X and that will take everything away. And then Control, okay. So again, with the rectangular marquee tool, I'm going to select everything down here, because basically what I'm going to try to do is separate each one of these. So I need individual files as opposed to one column of these, so I can move each one around individually. So if I select all but one and I do Control X to cut and Control V to paste, then I've got Tuesday all by itself now. And I'm just going to keep doing that for the rest of the week. Okay, so I've got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I've got them all here. The spacing is a little off, so we'll fix that in just a minute. And then she gave us an extra one that says plans. So I've got that right here. And did you see how I moved it over and it went behind our washi? We definitely don't want that. I want that to be on top of the washi. So if you have problems with that, what's happening is that way over here in your layers panel, the washi layer is basically higher up on my list than my plans banner. So what I want to do is change the order of the layers so that the plans banner will be on top of the green washi. So if I'm clicking on the plans banner, you can see all my little, these are called transform controls. All the little squares around here means that I've got this layer selected. If I look over here in the layers panel, I can see that it's called layer 9. So if I take this layer and I drag and drop it up above the green layer, then when I go to move it over, it'll be on top. So there's lots and lots and lots of little nuances in Photoshop like that that can drive you crazy if you really don't know what's going on, or if you're brand new to Photoshop and you don't really understand how layers work and things like that. So if you have questions, go ahead and leave them in the description box below. Always, always, always feel free to DM me and ask me any kind of question, because I can help you out with any little frustrations in Photoshop. I've been doing Photoshop for 15 years now, and I have come across every problem that you probably could have. So if you're having a problem, I guarantee you I've had it myself, and I can help you out. Okay, anyway, I'm gonna go back into the zoom tool, and we're gonna come up a little bit closer here and deal with all of our days of the week. So let's go back to the move tool, which I need in order to move these around. Click on Sunday, and you can click and drag and move things around if you want to do that. I like to be a little bit more precise, so I'm going to zoom in even closer here. And I like to use my arrow tools on my keyboard to move things around. You can see how slowly and how precisely it moves things, instead of like big giant moves with my mouse. I might not be as accurate. So I can use my arrow keys to move things around exactly where I like it. So there are all kinds of ways to do alignments in Photoshop. All of these buttons up here can help you align in a much faster way. I'm going to show you the manual way to do it, and if you want a more advanced way, then we can do more advanced Photoshop videos later. But we're just going to do it the easy way, and I'm going to click on one and use my arrow keys to put it exactly where I want it. Just keep on moving down the line. Okay, now I'm going to use my zoom tool and click on fit screen again, and you can see we're doing pretty well. So I've got all of the days of the week up here, and we've got them all right here too. So I think the next thing that we can start to do is put on the days of the week, and then after that we'll go through and we'll start doing the decorations. So I'm going to leave this plans here for a little bit, because if you can see in our model here, I've got it on the side and I changed the color of it because I wanted something more bright and vibrant than brown, even though the brown matches so perfectly with the rest of the kit because there's all kinds of cakes and cupcakes and things in here. So the brown would match, but I just wanted something a little bit brighter, so I'll show you guys how to change the color in just a little bit. So let's bring those hearts back, and we can go ahead and get those in place. Now this process is a little bit more tedious if you're doing it in Photoshop like this. If you were to just print stickers of these, sometimes it's a little bit faster to just put a sticker on, but I will still show you how I did it, and I will try to speed up the video when it gets to the boring repetitive part. So anyway, I'm gonna come back over to my library, I'm gonna right click on those date dots and click place layers, and so here we go, we've got everything that we want as far as the dates. So I'm going to take that rectangular marquee tool, and this time I am going to highlight things I do not want. Like I do not want these days of the week anymore, so I'm going to highlight them all and then hit the delete key on my keyboard, and now it's gotten rid of them. And then I can come over here, and I love these little icons, but we're not dealing with them quite yet, so I'm going to highlight, hit the delete key, and they're gone. Same thing with this little airplane one. I'm going to highlight it, hit the delete key, and it's gone. So now what we need to do is get all of these beautiful numbers to be individual hearts as opposed to one file where all the hearts move together. So we need to separate them all. And I did that by using, again, the rectangular marquee tool. Goodness. So you are just going to highlight around one of these, cut it, and paste it, and it shows up in a really weird spot here, like dead center in the middle. Then you can use your move tool, kind of move it off to the side. Go back to your rectangular marquee tool, highlight the two, cut, whoops, make sure you're on the right layer. I keep saying that, and then yet I'm not doing it. So click on the hearts, make sure you've got the little squares in the box all around your hearts. Then go to the rectangular marquee tool, cut out the one you want, cut, paste. Go back to the move tool, move it out of the way. Click on the hearts, rectangular marquee tool, highlight, cut, paste, go back to the move tool, grab your three, move it up and out of the way. And so now you can see that I've got three of them that are completely independent from each other, and I can put them wherever I want as opposed to these, which are all still stuck together. So I'm going to continue to cut these out inside Photoshop here. I'm going to speed the video along, but I'll also go ahead and put little description of what I'm doing. Okay, so now we've got 31 completely separate hearts, and now we just need to place them properly inside the calendar. So I'll show you how to do that. We'll start, Wednesday is the 1st. So I'll take my number 1, put it over here on Wednesday, and just keep dragging them over. Okay, so now I've got them all pretty close to in place. They're not perfect, and I'm going to show you how to make them perfect here in just a second. So I'm going to take my zoom tool, and let's start with the first week of August. So I'm going to zoom in, kind of move my cursor over a little bit. So I'm looking and dealing with just these top 4 hearts. So I'm going to hit the move tool, and I'm going to start with the 1. So you guys know I like to use my keyboard to get things perfectly in place. So I really like where this is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the shift key, and I'm going to select the other 3 hearts. So all of these 4 hearts are selected, and I know that because if I look down here in the layers panel, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 layers that are highlighted, and it's these 4 right here. So then we're going to start to use these alignment tools right here in the top. And so here's the first one, the second one, and the third one here has a little line underneath it. So basically it's saying that you're going to align your bottom edges. So if I hit align bottom edges, you saw just a slight shift in these hearts, and now all of them are aligned on the bottom perfectly. So that's exactly what we want. So I am going to let go of them, so now they're not highlighted anymore. And I really like the placement of this one in particular, and I like how close it is to the other line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 4 and I'm going to move it in just a little bit so that it matches the placement of this one. So I like the placement of the 1, I like the placement of the 4, and if I highlight, I'm going to hold that shift key down again, highlight each one of these by clicking on them, I can then go to this tool, which is called Distribute Horizontal Centers, and it's going to be a very slight movement, but if I do that, you can see the 2 and the 3 move just a little bit so that each one of these is in perfect alignment with this top corner of the box. So each one is perfectly spaced, and I didn't have to eyeball anything. I just put the first one where I wanted it, and I put the last one where I wanted it, and highlight everything in between, and Photoshop will automatically align so that they're spaced perfectly. I really like using that tool. So I'm going to zoom out, and I'm going to continue to do that with the rest of these. So let's zoom in here to number 5 and number 7. So I'm going to move number 5 to where I want it with my arrow keys. So I like that spacing. I'm going to do the same thing over here with my number 7. Put it where I want it. And then by highlighting number 5, number 6, and number 7, I can align the horizontal centers, and it will ever so slightly move them so that they are perfectly aligned. Now I need to align the bottoms, because you can see that this 6 is a little bit too high, it's cutting into this line. So I'm also going to align the bottoms, and it brought my 6 down. So now 5, 6, and 7 are perfectly aligned. Now these are perfectly in place. While the rest of these are not bad, you could leave them how they are. They're just not perfectly aligned. So we're just going to keep going and perfectly align these. So now that I know that my 5 is in the right place, I can use the alignment of this to align the rest of these going down, because you can see the 19 is way far away from this line, the 26 is right on the line, the 12 is far away. So I'm going to select the 5 hold down my shift key, select 12, select 19, select 26. And then I'm going to come up here and I am going to align the right edges. So you'll see this 12 move. Everything kind of moved perfectly in line, but it moved it over just a little bit too far. So I'm going to move them back just a little bit with my arrow key. And now you can see that these are perfectly aligned. So I'm going to do this whole entire line all at once. I selected them all and I'm going to make sure the bottoms are. So at this point you have a perfectly usable calendar. You could print it off at this point and use it and put it in your TN, but if you want to keep going, you can do some digital decorations like I did on this one. So you can either print this out and you can decorate it with stickers. Like for example, if you made stickers out of all of the decorations that mommylhey gave us, then you can print this out and put stickers on it. But if you want to keep going with me and make all the little stickers in Photoshop, then let's truck on. First thing is, let's get this sidebar going. So I'm going to zoom in on our little plans banner and I am going to make it yellow. So I'm going to take my move tool and click on it to select it. And I have, what color are we going to make it? Hold on. Maybe let's do this pretty blue color. So I'm going to zoom in and I've got it selected. There is a tool over here called the eyedropper tool, right in here. If you click on that, it will allow you to click on any color anywhere in your project here, and then you can use that color to fill in other areas. So I am going to select the blue. I had it pre-selected up here in my library because I singled out all of the colors I wanted to use for this kit. So I've got the eyedropper tool and I clicked on that blue. It's this blue here. And then I'm going to click on the paint bucket tool and I am going to click and make it blue. So you have to click inside any text bubbles as well to make sure that absolutely everything, whoops, turns out blue and there's no trace of brown left over at all. So there you go, you just change the color. And I can move it around, put it anywhere I want. Let's see where we put it here. Kind of in this area. So I'll just leave it here for now. And we'll come back and move it later if we need to. But let's work on this quote box area up here. So let's do these 3 hearts first. mommylhey has given us those hearts. I'm going to come down here and right click and place layers on that whole big layer that she gave us before. And all I really want are these little hearts down here. So I am going to select them. And that same thing, I'm going to cut them and paste them. And now I've got these hearts. And I'm just going to take the rest of this that I don't need anymore and hit the delete key, and now it's gone. So now I've got these 3 hearts over here. I've got 1 extra that's hanging out. So I'm going to take that marquee tool and delete it. Oops, make sure you're on the right layer. I keep saying that. So click on the hearts to make sure they're selected. And then use that marquee tool. Select the heart you don't want. Delete. And there you go. So now you've got those 3 beautiful hearts up here. Mine look a little bit different because I added a different gradient to it. Now that's a really advanced thing in in Photoshop, learning how to play with gradients and colors and things like that. So that can be in another advanced video, but for now let's just use the stock files that Mommylhey gave us, and we can just leave those pretty little hearts there and move on to the quote. So I'm going to come back over here to my library and find the quote, right click, place layers. And here are the two quotes that she gave us. You are the icing on my cake and oh so sweet. So I'm again going to take that rectangular marquee tool and I'm going to separate them. So I'm going to highlight the bottom here. I'm going to cut it and I'm going to paste it. And now with my move tool, I can move this one out of the way and I can move this one out of the way. So you can see the sizing is obviously not what we're going for. So we're going to have to make these a little bit smaller and maybe even change some colors here. So if you can see here, I've got it much smaller so that it fits perfectly inside the sidebar. So all you have to do is grab one of the corner boxes, hold down the shift key and drag it up. And then move it exactly where you want it. I'm going to use my arrow keys again to get that placement. I think that looks pretty good. You are the icing on my cake. So if you look over here, you can see that there's white outlining all around this. So we can go ahead and do that. That's called a stroke in Photoshop. So if you click on the layer, so I've got you are the icing on my cake selected. Whoops. Then I'm going to come over here into my layers panel. Into my layers panel, and then all the way at the bottom there's this little tiny thing here called, or it looks like an FX. And by clicking that, you're going to add a layer style. So if I click that, a little menu comes up, and then I want this stroke option right here. So if I click on stroke, this menu comes up and you can see there's white all around my font. So that's exactly what I wanted. There's a lot of different features that you can play with in here. You can play with the color, so if I didn't want white, I could make it any kind of color that I wanted. I could use this eyedropper tool and change it to be any of the colors in the Mommylhey kit right now. But I think for me, I'm just going to leave it at white. And then right here is what's called the size toolbar here, and you can change the size of it. You can see how crazy it looks when you scroll it up and down. So if it's all the way at 1, you can't really see much. So I'm just going to scroll it up a little bit until I'm happy. I think that looks good. That puts me about 13 right here. And I just think that looks pretty, very nice. It makes it stand out a little bit better than if there was nothing at all. So you can kind of see the difference between no stroke and putting a white stroke on there. It just makes it pop a little bit more. So we're going to leave that there. I think we'll do that for these hearts too, just to make them pop a little bit. So I've clicked on them and I'm going to come over here and hit this little FX down here. It's going to make this menu pop up. I'm going to click on stroke. And then it automatically does the same stroke that I had here because it kind of saved my settings. Now I don't like the way that it looks here on the hearts. I think it looks a little bit too thick. So I'm going to scroll down. I think that's pretty good. Maybe about a 7. And you can do as much as you want or as little as you want, but I think right around 7 looks good for me. So I'm going to click OK. And I am going to move my little quote box down just a smidge. So you can see we're getting there. I'm going to move my plans up a little bit. And then next would be the little hexagons. So let's see, where are they? They're right in here. So I'm going to right click and place layer. Woo! And you can see they're huge. So the hexagons come in on the stickers and die cut page. So I don't need anything but these hexagons. So what I'm going to do is take that rectangular marquee tool and draw a box around them. And then I'm going to cut and paste like we've been doing before. I'll click on my move tool to move these out of the way. Then I'm going to click on the rest of this And I'm not going to use any of this right now, so I'm just going to delete it. And now I've got my hexagons, which are way, way, way too big. So what I'm going to do is, while they're all still connected, I am going to make them smaller. And I'm going to drag one of these little boxes here in the diagonal. Make sure you're holding down your shift key. Click and drag upwards. And that's going to make them smaller. Let's drag it down here and see exactly how small. That's probably a pretty good size because I want them to fit inside the stripes here. So that is probably a pretty good size. Okay, now is the next tedious step of separating these. But what we're going to do is select all of these, each one individually, and separate them. So let's see, I want to make sure I get this yellow one because I think that one's really, really pretty. Yellow is one of my favorite colors. So what I'm going to do, instead of using the rectangular marquee tool, because if I were to use that, I would get sections of all the other ones in here, and I don't want to have to deal with cleaning that up. So I'm not going to use the rectangular marquee tool. What I'm going to use is the tool under it, which is called the lasso tool. Now this tool allows you to draw kind of freehand, and you have to be a little bit careful. And I am just going to very carefully draw all around my hexagon, and it does not have to be perfect by any means, because all you want to do is eventually link up where you started and where you're ending, and then it's going to select all around it. Then you can just cut. Whoops, make sure you're on the right layer. Okay, so I'm on the right layer, cut, paste, and now this guy is separate all by itself. Let's do that again with this purple guy. Let's see what I have. I think that's enough. These 4 colors right here, that'll be good for me. So you can keep going and separating out the other ones if you want, but I'm going to get rid of them. I don't want them. So just delete the other ones and fit on screen. Okay, so now I've got 4 of these. Let's see about how many I used here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I used 7. So maybe I'll see if I can do 8. Maybe I can fit 8. So you can see that I've got 4 of these. Now if I highlight each one of them, I'm going to hold down my shift key and click on each one. I can copy and paste them. So now I have 8 all together, and they are completely individual from each other. So I can put them wherever I want. So let's start right here. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because we can use our alignment tools to put them exactly where we want. Okay, so let's select them all, hold down your shift key and click on each one, and then again we're going to use these alignment tools. Let's align all the left edges so they're all right, and then let's space out, let's see, the vertical centers so that each one will be spaced out perfectly inside each one of these lines without having to move and eyeball them myself. So there you go. Let's get our stickers going here at the bottom. Okay, so again, I'm going to come in on those that sticker file, and I'm going to right click and place layers. And so mommylhey has tons and tons of stickers here that you can choose from. I know it's kind of hard to see them all because I've got so much going on in the background. But what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to use that lasso tool, and I am going to cut out the stickers I want. So I just want this girl for now. I'm going to cut her out. So cut and paste. Grab my move tool so I can move her to the side. And then I also like this little cake here. So I'm going to grab him or her. and paste over here. And then I'm also gonna grab a couple of these little macarons. So I'm gonna cut that guy out, paste him, grab my move tool, move him over to the side, grab my lasso tool again, and cut out this one. Make sure you're on the right layer. Cut, paste, grab your move tool, and move him over to the side too. Okay, there are so many other options. You can use so many other stickers, but I am going to just leave it at that. So I'm going to delete the rest of those and come down here and work on the girl and the cupcake, or the cake. So if we look at this girl, who's the cutest thing ever, she's got a little bit of white here in her background that I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another tool called the Magic Wand tool, and I'm going to click on that white, and then I'm just going to hit my delete key, click on the white on this side, hit my delete key, and it's gone. So now you can see the green behind her neck, and I just like the way that looks a little bit better. You can get rid of any of the white on the mommylhey files just by clicking on it with the Magic Wand tool and hitting delete on your keyboard. Alright, so let's make this girl a little bit smaller. Let's say maybe about that size. And then I like this little cake down here, but I'm going to make him a little bit smaller. And I like that the little girl is on top of the cake. So if I put her right over the cake, it would cover it. So if I've got her right here, you can see her leg is just barely covering the cake, and I kind of think that's cute. Another thing that you can do is on this little cake, I have showed you how to resize, so you could grab a corner and you could resize, whoa, come back. You could resize this little cake to whatever size you wanted, okay? So I've shown you that already. But another thing that I want to show you is if you pay really, really close attention to this cursor right here and you hold it just outside of a corner, it will turn into kind of a little bent cursor. So you can see how if I'm close, it's kind of a straight arrow, but if I move out just a little bit, it turns into a curved arrow. So I am going to now hold down, and I can turn this little guy however I want. So I can make it a little bit more interesting and put like an angle on it. And I think that's cuter than just straight up and down. So there's straight up and down, and there's a little bit more interest by turning it. So it's whatever preference you have, but I'm gonna leave it cut to the side like that. Now, we've been dealing with what's called that stroke, and I like the way that looks. I hope you guys like that too. I'm gonna put a stroke around these little stickers as well. So I'm gonna click on her. We're gonna go back down to our little FX, click on that. That's gonna bring up a menu. Click on stroke, and it still remembers that the last stroke I used was white and it was 7. So I like the way that looks. I'm just gonna leave it right like that. And then I'm going to click on the little cake and do the same thing. Come down here, stroke, and now you can see that it's got a stroke as well. So that's without the stroke. And then when you add the stroke, you see it just adds a little bit more interest, makes it pop a little bit more. So we're getting pretty close. I'm gonna take these little macarons, and for now I'm just gonna move them right up here just to get them out of the way. So that's pretty much it. That's our sidebar. It's done. Now if you look here, mine is a little bit different. I've got white hexagons on the inside, and that's kind of an advanced thing that I can show you how to do in another video. But just for this video, we're gonna use the mommylhey files pretty much as they are. So you still get little boxes that you can check off, and you can write things in here, cute little sticker here at the bottom. So I think the next thing we're gonna do is put these little macarons in here for decoration. So I've got 2 of them right now, and they're a little bit smaller than I want them to be. So if I highlight both of them and hold my shift key down, I can drag them downward and make them a little bit bigger. It's a little too big, but I want them to fit nicely inside the boxes, pretty much. So I like the size of that one. And then I've got this little guy here. And then I'm gonna click on the first one and I'm gonna copy and paste it. And so now I've got 3. And I like the little angles that they're at. I think that's cute. So you can see right in here, you know what, these are a little bit smaller. I kind of like that smaller look. So I'm gonna make them, hold down your shift key, drag them a little bit smaller, and then just reposition them where you think they're cutest. So maybe you like them perfectly in line. Maybe you like them kind of shifted off to the side with some funny angles. Whatever you think is cute, that's what you want to do. There. So it looks pretty close to what we had going on here. So you can see how things are not exact when I'm replicating something in Facebook. Oh, sorry, I keep saying Facebook, Photoshop, but it's pretty close. It's looking pretty close. It might not be exact, but it's pretty close to what we've got here. So our sidebar is done, our top is done, we've got some decorations going on. Let's come down here. I think this is the last thing that we have to do, is fix this Oh So Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna take our Oh So Sweet, and first thing I'm gonna do is, with my move tool, I'm gonna grab one of these upper corners here, hold my shift key and bring it down. Maybe a little smaller. And then I'm going to also turn it to the side, just to give it a little bit of extra interest. Okay, I like it like this. I like it kind of overlapping outside the boxes. I just think that gives it some interest. I think it's cute. I'm also going to move it over a little bit. Okay, so there's a lot of different ways you can change the color of this. And I'll show you 2 different ways to change the color. So first thing we're gonna do is, with this layer selected, I'm gonna come down here to the little FX again, click on that, and I am going to click on Color Overlay. So when I click on Color Overlay, it's already got a color in here selected, and it's a gray. Not really sure why it's a gray, but we can choose any color. If I click on this gray here, then my color picker comes up and I can choose any color I want. So if I come outside of my color picker, I'm moving my cursor over here into my swatches, I can choose any of the colors that mommylhey included. So I can make it that pink color, the yellow color, that teal, lime green, that pretty purple, or that light pink. So you can choose any of those colors. I mean, you can also leave it black, or you can choose any kind of crazy random color that you want. But if you want to just leave it pink, for example, you could be done with it right there. And that looks really cute. So you could leave it there and call it a day. But if you want to do something a little fancier like this and kind of have a gradient, I can show you how to do that. So I'm going to come down in here again. Let's get a little bit closer so we can really see what's going on. Okay. And I'm just going to hit undo. I'm going to go to edit and do undo color overlay because I want it to be black again, like it was when mommylhey gave it to us. So I'll come down here again to this FX, click on it, and what I'm going to do now is a gradient overlay. So the color overlay is just going to do one solid color. The gradient overlay will let you blend colors together, and that's where you get that super, super interesting look, that ombre. We have all seen, if you follow Mommy Lhey, we have all seen Mommy Lhey do colors like this. I think especially on her Instagram stories, you can watch her do this with Tombos, and she's amazing at blending colors and making things look like this. I could not do this to save my life except in Photoshop. So I'm really, really glad that I know how to do gradients in here, because Mommy Lhey has natural talent. I have digital talent, I guess. So this is how I cheat and I get that same look that she gets when she does her Tombow markers. So just by default, Photoshop gave me this gradient of yellow to like a deep, deep burnt red color, which is really pretty, but if you look at it, it doesn't really match so much with the colors that we're going for. So we don't want to leave it at this. So I'm gonna go edit, undo, so it's black again. So I'm gonna come down here in my layers panel, click on FX and gradient overlay. So now what we can do is change the colors that we're using in the gradient so that they match a little bit better with the kit. So I'm gonna click on this gradient color here. If I click on the box, then the gradient editor comes up. And you can see how the gradient works. It goes from this beautiful yellow to an orange to a dark burnt red. And these little squares down here are your color pickers. So if I change these little squares down here, then that'll change the colors that flow from light to dark. Okay, so I'm gonna click the little yellow down here, and let's see. I can make it the actual yellow that Mommy Lhey used in the kit. I'm gonna click on the orange, and let's click on that darker pink. So it's going from yellow to pink, and then this last color, instead of burnt orange, let's maybe try a couple different things. So that's what it would look like if it went from yellow to pink to teal. So you can see here, in order for it to go from pink to teal, Photoshop does the natural gradient, so you can even see some purplish and bluish colors in there that come out naturally. We didn't even choose this purple color, but to get a nice flow from pink to teal, it adds some purple in there, which is really nice because Mommy Lhey has purple in this kit. So I do like that option of doing teal. You could even go back to yellow if you wanted. So that's nice. It's a 2-color gradient. So from yellow to pink to yellow, you could leave it there. You could go a 2-color gradient from yellow to pink where there's nothing else. Let's see, we could do the purple. We could do the light pink. She also has a lime green in here. I think there's a blue. So there's so many different options that you could do. Let's see. I mean, you could go to black. There's just so many options. So I'm gonna leave it on the teal because I think that's really pretty. So for now, we'll just leave it at 3 colors. You can add tons and tons and tons of colors in here. This is it can be kind of an advanced thing, but for now, we're just gonna leave it at those 3 colors and let Photoshop do the natural gradient, and I think it looks great. I'm gonna click OK, and you can see that it matches pretty well with the rest of the kit. I think it's really cute. So there you go. That's the original that we were trying to recreate, and using the Mommy Lhey files, this is what we got. So it is pretty darn close, with a couple of exceptions of maybe the yellow isn't in some of the date dots. Oops. So there's yellow in these date dots, and they're a little bit smaller, so that's kind of a main difference. But otherwise, it's pretty close. So if you wanted to see how to change the color of the date dots, you could do that easily by clicking on the Move tool, click on the one that you want to change, and then over here with your eyedropper, click on that yellow that you want to change it to. And then we're gonna use the paint bucket tool. So if I click on this heart, it'll change it to yellow. So you kind of have to go back and forth between your tools. So let's click on the move tool, and I'm just gonna randomly do this. Let's click on the 15th. Click on my paint bucket tool and change it to yellow. Go back to the move tool, and let's do the 25th. Get your paint bucket and fill that in. Get my move tool, and maybe I'll do the 28th as well, just because that one's going to be a little tricky. So if I fill that one in, you can see that the circles in the 8 are still teal. So if I zoom in on that and use my paint bucket, I can just click on the parts that I want to be yellow, and there you go. So that's a little bit closer still. If you want to change the size of the hearts, we really should have done it when it was all one big file, when it was this size, because if we had made them smaller when they were all one size or one file and then separated them, it would have been much easier. But now that they're already separated, if we were to change the size, we would have to pretty much do it one by one, which is tedious. But there's also another way to do it. You could select all of the date dots at once and then go over here to your properties panel and change the size. Let's say that we want it just a little bit smaller. You could change them and it would be smaller, but then you would have to realign everything. So it's up to you if you want to do that. I'm gonna say we don't. I'm just gonna leave it like this with the bigger ones. If you want to make them smaller and realign them, you definitely can, or do the smart thing and make them smaller while they're all together and then separate them out. So that is pretty much it for this video, guys. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. If this was overwhelming for you, if you're new to Photoshop, you've never used it before, and this was overwhelming for you, don't give up after this video. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. I can clarify any part of this. I'm not really sure of the skill sets that I'm dealing with. I don't know if I'm dealing with people who have been using Photoshop as long as I have, or people who are just buying it today and opening it up for the first time. So if you have any questions on how to set Photoshop up, or any specific tools, or why isn't this working, it's driving me crazy, I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong, feel free to leave it in the comments below or DM me on Instagram. You guys know me, poshplumplans. And then I can help out in any way possible. So I'll continue to do digital layouts like this with the mommylhey kits and the digital files. There's tons of fun things that I can do on Photoshop that sometimes I can't really do in person, like with stickers and things like that. I can imagine something and do it in Facebook. Gosh, why do I keep saying Facebook? I can do it in Photoshop, but to do it with the actual stickers and things that mommylhey gives us, sometimes I'm not as creative on paper, if that makes sense. Anyway, I'm rambling. I will let you guys go. I will see you guys in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you had some fun. Oh, last thing would be if you wanted to print this out. So that's really simple. You're just gonna go File, Print, and Photoshop shows you what it's gonna look like when you print it. And then you can just print it out, and when you do have it printed out, it has guidelines on there so you can cut it out and make it fit perfectly in a B6. Okay guys, so I've got my B6 here. I don't yet have my July kit and it's driving me crazy. I should be getting it in a couple days, but this is last month's, or maybe 2 months ago, the B6 that we got, and I just wanted to show you the file that we just created. Well, this isn't it. This is something else that I did using those digitals because I wanted to use the mommylhey inserts and practice my hand lettering. That's a totally different project. But anyway, this is what we just did. And so I printed it out, and I can use it in here and fill out my monthly spread. And I just wanted to show you what it looks like when you actually print it. So it's super cute, just as cute as it is in Photoshop. and it fits perfectly inside these inserts, which I think are so adorable. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I had a blast doing this. If you guys enjoyed the tutorial, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to let me know that you like videos like this. If you want more Photoshop videos where you can actually print out and do your own thing with the mommylhey digitals, let me know that, and then I can keep going and doing more videos for you. But until next time, bye guys!